So after all these experimentations with mixing various colors and understanding the layers of the skin, etc., you might still be wondering which exact colors to use while choosing for permanent makeup for eyebrows and lips. Because for eyebrows and lips, your client will have very specific requirements about what kind of colors they want for their brows or lips. So let's get a little into detail about how to use the pigment kits. For eyebrows and lips, for eyebrows especially when you are doing a kind of shading, you are doing an ombre brow or a powder brow, etc., you would be mixing various liquid colors, whereas for microblading you would need a more solid color to place in each and every stroke. So first let's talk about the colors for shading. If you have to select the perfect color, you have to first select the skin type, see the undertone, and then select the color. So in terms of selecting the skin type, in Indian skin, we have a light skin tone and a dark skin tone. As per Fitzpatrick skin type, if we go to see, we are falling between skin type 3 to skin type 5. So I have divided this into two parts to make it easier for us. Skin type 3 to 4 is the lighter skin type and skin type 4 to 5 is the darker skin type. Let's say my skin, for example, would fall under skin type 3 to 4 and a darker skin tone would fall under skin type 4 to 5. So if you have first noticed the skin type, the next thing that you need to notice is whether there is the presence of any sort of grayish pigmentation. So what do we mean by grayish pigmentation? In some people, you might have noticed that they have very dull and dark under eye circles. Some people will have a grayish sort of hue around the mouth, also known as perioral pigmentation. Some people would have a patchy grey pigmentation here, also known as dermal melasma. Some people would have a grayish pigmentation near the corners of their eyes, also known as PDL lines. Some people would have a grayish patch on the forehead, or the entire forehead would be little grayish or blackish compared to the rest of the face. All these are known as grayish pigmentation, or rather I have given them the terminology grayish pigmentation rather than putting a medical term to it to make it easier for you to understand. So once you have seen what is the skin type as per Fitzpatrick skin type, the next thing that you have to observe is the type of pigmentation that they have on the face or the absence of pigmentation. The third factor that you need to take into consideration is what kind of brows is your client looking for. Is it something very subtle that they want? Is it something medium and natural looking that they want? Or do they want something that is very bold and made up? So first factor, let's say it's somebody with skin type 3 to 4, me for example. Grayish pigmentation, right now I'm wearing a little bit of makeup, but I do have some amount of grayish pigmentation around the mouth and under the eyes. So I would say yes. So always have a look at your client without any makeup on while judging for grayish pigmentation. And depending on the kind of brows that the person wants, let's say my brows are something I would call medium, not very subtle but not very bold either. So for me, you would use a combination of 4 drops of walnut black, 2 drops of honey brown and 2 drops of lava orange. This combination would give you a perfect end result of a medium brown color on my sort of skin. So for every skin type, you have to judge the skin color, then you need to judge the level of grayish pigmentation, and then you need to choose the colors as you can see on the screen based on the kind of brows that they are looking for. So let us take another example, skin type 4 to 5. Somebody who does not have grayish pigmentation and is looking for a bold eyebrow. You will mix walnut black 6 drops and lava orange 2 drops. Now when we say they do not have a grayish pigmentation or they do have a grayish pigmentation points more towards a cool undertone. So try to understand that whenever you want to counter any color, you have to add more of the opposite color. So as we had seen in the color wheel earlier, a grayish pigmentation, that is a cool undertone, means the person's skin already has more of blue in it. Now go back to that color wheel and see which color was the opposite of blue, which color was located right across on the color wheel on the opposite side, that is orange. So whenever we want to counter the blue in the skin, we add more of orange in order to ensure that the end result is more of brown. Similarly, if a person has a warm undertone, which is not very commonly seen in India, very rare to see a warm undertone person in Indian skin type, because genetically we tend to have more of eumelanin. Even the lighter skin types amongst Indians, will have a more proportion of eumelanin compared to pheomelanin. So eumelanin has more of a bluish brown or blackish brown. But if you see Europeans or North Americans, some of the races, they will have more of a warm undertone. The pheomelanin will be a little higher in proportion, and hence you have to choose more of a cool brown, a brown which has more of blue in it. There we don't use these orange color correctors. So we are later going to be seeing what if you have misjudged the undertone and you end up with a color that is different from what you had predicted. So this chart that you are seeing right now is what you have to select at the time of primary session. Now, if a person does not have any grayish pigmentation right now, does not necessarily mean that they don't have a cool undertone. They may develop grayish pigmentation in the future also. So, even if you have judged it as per not very cool undertone right now by saying that they do not have a grayish pigmentation, you might still end up with a slightly grayish or bluish discoloration of the brows when they come for their touch-up. So, later on we are going to see what colors you should choose at the time of touch-up. So this screen that you see, this table that I have created is based on our pigment kits, the Eyebrows pigment kit. However, if you are purchasing our individual pigments, instead of walnut black, you can use the liquid dark brown pigment. Instead of the honey brown pigment, you can use a color called pecan. And instead of the lava orange, you can use just plain orange. We don't have a substitute of deep brown in the individual packs as of now. So it's best if you purchase a kit, but if not, if you have the individual pigments with you already, then you can choose these colors. Also remember that color names will vary from brand to brand. So dark brown of one company will not be the same as dark brown of another company. So whenever you are purchasing pigments, make sure that you understand what undertones each of the pigments have in whichever brand you are purchasing from. For example, for our brand, that is Eyebrow, we provide an undertone chart, not just a color shade chart, but a color chart, a shade chart which has the undertones of each and every color mentioned inside, so that you can select the right sort of color. These particular colors are based on, this particular table is based on the colors that we have of our brand, might not necessarily match the exact same names of another brand. So now we are going to see what exactly to use when you are doing microblading in a primary session. When I say primary session, it is the first session. It's a brow where there is no PMU work done before. Later on, we are also going to see about the touch-up part. So when you are doing microblading in the primary session, we have 3 colors in our microblading kit. We have royal black, dark brown and chocolate. So here once again you have to select the Fitzpatrick skin type. So skin type 3 to 4 or skin type 4 to 5. Then you see whether the person is having any grayish pigmentation or not, and then you can check whether the client wants a subtle brow or a medium brow. Let's go back a little and see the subtle brow in skin type 4 to 5 for the shading purpose. I have written not possible here, because if you see the color of skin type 4 to 5 and the color of subtle brow, it is very similar. A subtle brow will not be seen on a darker skin type. So there is no point in using any sort of color mix because it will just disappear. A darker skin type already is dark brown in color, and a subtle brow is also brown in color, and it will just merge together and won't really give you any result. So for a darker skin type, you have to select either a medium brow or a bold brow. So as you can see here, I have mentioned subtle, medium and bold. Whereas when I talk about microblading, I have only mentioned subtle and medium. There is no bold. The reason for this is, even if you use the darkest of dark colors, you can still only create a medium brow, because in microblading we are creating strokes. In between the strokes there will be normal skin color seen, and this will make sure that the brows don't look very bold. You cannot have made up looking brows with the help of microblading. In those cases where a person wants a natural look but also a little bold look together, you can do a combination brow. You can do microblading in the front part near the head of the brow, and you can do shading in the remaining part. This is also known as combo brow or hybrid brow, fusion brow, etc. Various different names are given. So you can do a combination of microblading along with shading, and you can choose the microblading colors based on this chart and the shading colors based on the previous chart that I had shown. So for microblading, we have royal black, dark brown and chocolate. So royal black is the darkest. Dark brown and chocolate have the same amount of darkness, but chocolate has a more warm undertone, whereas dark brown is a more neutral undertone. So you first select the skin type. You check what is the skin type as per the Fitzpatrick skin type, whether it is 3 to 4 or 4 to 5. Then you check whether there is any grayish pigmentation or not, and then you check what kind of brows your client wants. So if it is something subtle, and let's say it's skin type 3 to 4 with grayish pigmentation, you can use just chocolate. Now as I mentioned, chocolate is a warm brown, a reddish brown. Presence of grayish pigmentation means it's a cool undertone. So we are using a reddish or an orangish or a warm colored brown to neutralize the blue which is already present. The blue we know is there because the person already has a grayish pigmentation. So you need to start thinking of colors in a stepwise way. Skin color, grayish pigmentation, then you choose the pigment color. Because if you just randomly choose any brown, you buy any random brown of any brand without understanding the undertone of that particular pigment, you will not be able to judge what is the kind of end result that you are going to get. See, on the day of treatment, of course, it's going to look fantastic because the pigment is going to be present on the skin and it is going to look brown. But after some days, as we have seen earlier, when you put it behind the epidermis, the color is going to be seen through the undertone of the skin and not the pigment by itself. So you have to be able to visualize the end result, the healed result, which your client is going to see day in and day out for the next few years. So this all is at the time of primary session. Now the same client, when they come for touch-up, their brows might have slightly changed color. So it is very important for you to maintain a record of whatever color combination you had used at the time of first session, whatever drops you had mixed or whatever microblading color you had used. If you see in the microblading colors in skin type 4 to 5, if they want a subtle brow, I have asked you to use a dark brown color and then mask it with a royal black. So basically we are putting the color into 2 layers. A dark brown color underneath will make sure that the brow remains subtle, and a darker color on the top will make sure that the brow is visible. Because if you use only dark brown in skin type 4 to 5, it will be barely visible. Similarly for chocolate also, if you want a subtle brow in somebody who already has grayish pigmentation, you can use microblading with chocolate color and then mask it with a black color. Masking is done for about 3 to 5 minutes and then wiped off. So at the time of touch-up, in spite of your best color selection, there's always a chance that the brow might have turned a slightly different color. What are the possibilities? The brow might have ended up lighter than what you would expect. In that case, you can add the same colors and give more saturation, give more number of passes to make it darker, or you can use a darker color itself. If the brow has turned a little grayish, bluish or greenish, this happens when the undertone is very cool or you have not used an orange modifier in adequate quantity. Then you can mix whatever color you had mixed at the time of first session and add a little bit of orange to it. Now when you add orange to it, you also have to understand that orange has yellow in it. So it is also going to lighten the brown. If you don't want to lighten the brown, instead of orange, you can add red. This can be done only in darker skin types. In lighter skin types, let's say Fitzpatrick 3 to 4, if you add red, red will be seen as red. So in lighter skin types, if the brow has turned grayish, bluish or greenish, you only add orange. However, if it is a darker skin tone, that is skin type 4 to 5, and if the brow has turned grayish, bluish or greenish, you use the previous mix, whatever you had used, and add a little bit of red. In this, you can select a red from any one of our other kits. You can choose the vivid red or bold red or rose red, etc. And you can mix it with the pre-mix that you had used in the first session itself. So your end result will be a perfect brown color after the touch-up. Now this last row, you might be wondering, does the brow ever turn reddish in color? Well, not usually in Indians, because we tend to have more of a cool undertone. But when we talk about Europeans, North Americans, certain other skin types, they have a higher proportion of pheomelanin compared to eumelanin. So in this pheomelanin, they will have a chance of the eyebrow turning reddish in case a warm color has been used. Sometimes in Indians, if you are overcorrecting, you are being overcautious, you are scared of the brow turning bluish or greenish or grayish, and you add too much of orange in the first session itself, then also your brow might turn a little reddish or orangish. So if this has happened because of a warm undertone in a skin type 1 or 2 in the whiter skin people, then a greenish color can be added. However, if you have ended up with a reddish brow, not because of a warm undertone but because of overcorrection, please do not add green, because if you add green, it is more likely it will turn greenish. So just avoid adding that much orange which you had added in the first session, and you use whatever browns you had, and you will end up with the perfect brown brow. So here is a chart for you to understand. When I say eyebrow color at touch up, it means the brow color that you are seeing, it might not be exactly grey colored or blue colored or green colored or red colored like you are seeing on the screen, but we are talking about a bluish or a greenish tinge in the color. So the proportion of orange or red that you mix in order to correct these colors will vary based on how blue or how green it has turned out.